Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The nomadic lifestyle is not something new. This has started from the ancient days. But we are talking a different pitch here. That's the digital nomads. Countries have already stepped into this, and they have gone to a point of issuing nomad visas. And this nomadic lifestyle is preferred by some regions, and people have started moving towards this lifestyle. So, what are we going to do about it? How can we attract these nomads to Sri Lanka, which will become a new stream of revenue generation to Sri Lanka? At the same time, what are the challenges that we have? To start off with, we have Saurabh joining from India, who will start with a presentation. Saurabh, over to you. Saurabh?
Yeah, is my slide visible now?
Yeah.
Can you see it? All right, okay, awesome. All right, such a pleasure to be here. Just a couple of slides to tell everyone about this lifestyle and what's in it for Sri Lanka. So, see, at the moment in 2022, there are around close to 35 million digital nomads around the world. So it's no more something which is, you know, it's bigger than a lifestyle. It's quite mainstream now. And these are some attributes of the digital nomad. Like an average digital nomad is around 33-year-old, not religious, single, work as a software dev, work from office, right? So these are some of the attributes. And what we have seen that in the last 2 years, post-pandemic, the number of digital nomads has skyrocketed. Of course, it was there since more than a decade, but like in the last 2 years, once we understood the importance of remote work, and many people embraced this lifestyle because that was the only way out. We saw more and more people embracing this lifestyle. And as Mr. Nirmalan was sharing with us, that now many countries are looking to attract digital nomads because now they contribute to the major chunk of the travelers and tourists who are visiting countries, right? So a lot of countries are coming up with programs like digital nomad visas, or they're luring digital nomads in different ways to get them. And if you compare them with a normal tourist, the, digital nomads are spending more time at a destination. They have higher purchasing power, so it makes sense to you know, focus at this segment, right? When it comes to Sri Lanka, these are the 5 major destinations at the moment: Colombo, Gale, Arugam Bay, Kandy, and Matara. And it makes sense to focus on these destinations because I think already it's quite known amongst the digital nomad community. And you know, if this can be positioned as you know, like if it can be improved, it will be even better. What I mean. But if you compare Sri Lanka with digital nomad destinations globally or in the Southeast Asian region, I would say that presently it doesn't have a very good score. For example, Colombo's score is 140, which is, I would say, which is not so good. All these data are from the Nomad list, which is the best community for digital nomads globally. So, and you can see some of the other ratings for Colombo. For example, quality of life is okay, cost is quite affordable. So a lot of digital nomads, they prefer Sri Lanka as a destination because the cost of living here is low and the quality of life is high. So that's something that many nomads look for. but the internet speed is definitely not good. 7 Mbps is the average internet speed, and I'm pretty sure that once that is improved, a lot of nomads will be interested in spending more time in Sri Lanka, because like all the digital nomads, they need to work remotely, and one of the main criteria for them to decide a destination is internet speed and the cost of living, right? Um, this is what most of the nomads have. These are the ratings from the nomads, and these are the average ratings. So it will be safe to say that it's very close to how it is ground realities. Nomads feel that it's fun. That's very good. Temperature is good most of the time, so that's also is fine. So we can see that once some of the things are taken well care of, I do see that the ranking for Colombo and other Sri Lankan cities will definitely improve in the digital nomad cities list. Also, one thing to notice here is that what I see is that Sri Lanka is quite a unique destination for digital nomads, and what we are seeing that presently the number of visitors coming to Sri Lanka is almost close to twice the population of the country, right? So for example, this is the data for Colombo. So it's like Colombo is 650,000 people, and the number of visitors is almost twice. So it's quite good if you see the numbers, and definitely there are ways to improve that, right? So that's a good sign. Here are some things to keep in mind. These are some pros and cons that most of the nomads mention about Colombo. Like, the reason why many nomads preferred it, because it's affordable to live, it's safe, lots of fun things to do, temperature is good most year all around, air quality is good, roads are pretty safe. These are some pros, but again, there are some cons as well. For example, many nomads felt that there is freedom of speech is weak, internet is slow, it's at times it could be sweaty during the summers, it's a bit difficult to do business, probably English not that common, it's not family friendly, and it's hostile towards LGBTQ. I can completely understand if these are something that has been voted by nomads, and this is something that keeps on changing as well. But yeah, these things are what most of the nomads are seeing on platform like Nomad List, and it makes sense to take these into account and work towards improving it so that we can attract more nomads. Other thing to keep in mind is that we see that year on year the number of arrivals is increasing, and now what we saw in 2022, that many nomads are looking to go to Sri Lanka because it's cheaper comparatively to previous years. So many nomads are looking to in cash that very thing. So I'm quite bullish that once the internet speed is well taken care of, the ranking of cities in Sri Lanka will improve, and overall Sri Lanka is, I see that it could be an emerging destination for digital nomads, not just in South Asia, but it has the chances of getting into the radar of global nomads, and globally the rank will improve as well. Yeah, those were some of the data points I wanted to share with you. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
Thanks, Saurabh. Saurabh, a quick question. Would you please tell us what kind of nomads are normally attracted towards Sri Lanka? Is there any specific category which you see in your research?
Yeah, so see, what I see is that majority of the nomads look for a destination where the quality of life is high and the cost of living is low. So the reason why a lot of Westerners, they prefer South Asia or Southeast Asia, because here you can have a very good quality of life at a low cost of living, right? So I do see that nomads who are just starting this way of life, for whom cost of living is really a big factor, they prefer South Asian destinations, Sri Lanka, India, they prefer. Also, I see that Sri Lanka is quite known for surfing, so a lot of nomads who prefer to surf, want to spend time at the beaches, they prefer Sri Lanka.
Okay, thanks, Saurabh. Dilip, you being in the leisure sector and being part of the tourist board before, what initiatives Sri Lanka has taken to encourage this?
Hi. Thank you, Sav. Can you, I hope you can hear me. Yeah, I hope you can hear me.
Yes, Dilip, go ahead.
Right, okay. So basically, can you see my screen as well?
Yeah. Do you want me to
Okay.
repeat the question?
No, fine. I heard it. So I will answer this your question while I'm presenting this as well. I mean, the digital nomad. There was a complete document that was submitted a couple of years back during the COVID time, and the cabinet actually approved it, and it was submitted by Sri Lanka Tourism at that point, where I was also a board member. And we gave examples of how the countries are doing it, potential earnings that we can do, and what are some sort of a regulation changes that are required in order to attract that. And that has received the cabinet approval, and I will just share that the outcome of that just at the last slide. So this is, I mean, already shared that, but the good thing is that this is type of people that were coming in freelance for multiple companies, as well as, you know, regular employees of the specific company. These are type of people who are coming in, and hours were basically they work about 46 hours per week, and then also consultants, and then maybe a lot of people from the social media. So I'll just share a small thing that we did, and we also have experiencing a lot of difficulties in finding, especially on the people on the digital skills, digital marketing and online marketing, etc. And then we actually tried once to see whether we can actually find good content creators, storytellers in their respective languages. And then we sent a team from actually started from Unnavattana, and they went up to Midigama, which is extreme south of Sri Lanka. And, you know, we found some very, very interesting content creators. Some of them actually even work for Facebook and some of the international channels. And they actually, even though on the one side, brain drain has really affected us, and we found basically a solution of working with such people on freelance projects, and they've actually prompt and delivered a great content for us, which is otherwise would have been difficult for us to find. So that model actually really worked, even though we didn't continue for a long period, and something which we tried. So I must just share that experience. And these are actually the destinations that we are competing with in the top of the mind awareness when people want to go to these destinations and looking at it. And we have Thailand and Spain within the Asia. If you look at it in Sri Lanka, this is the 51 digital nomads visas. It says Sri Lanka coming soon. And I will basically tell you what the latest status of that. So what these countries have done, if you look at it, you know, they have given a long-term visa, and they also have given at the same time there's a cost for it. So let's say, for example, from Barbados, $2,000 they charge, and you have to basically guarantee $50,000 revenue coming into the account. That's also very important. It's not actually what are the services that we give it to such people when they come in, because there is a cost of providing such services is based on basic taxpayers' monies, etc. So that's very important that we have a certain revenue coming into the country, and we create that environment. So if you look at Bermuda, is also they have a type of visa. It's only very cheap, $263,000. Cayman Islands, they charge as well. They're actually asking for minimum $100,000 for a year, and a visa cost is $1,500. And they have thought about couples and also, like, you know, for dependents also $500. Costa Rica is having a great programs called Rentista. They have branded it, and people know about it, and it's mainly for self-employed people. Portugal has, and the country goes on. So every country that we have studied into this have really shown that there are two things. They're very clear. It's not normal tourism, leisure tourism. They are looking for people basically who can come to a country, who can work, and who can bring foreign exchange to the country also. So that's very important to provide that ecosystem that we discussed right throughout. So this top-down and the bottom-up approach. Top-down is, you know, when a destination is actually taking a real effort to go and promote this, which we have to see, yet to be seen from the Sri Lankan authorities. The other one is the bottom flow. Can you hear me? Yes?
Dilip, your screen was not visible because Shaurav is still sharing the screen.
Shahrukh, maybe you can stop sharing
Okay.
it.
Sure, I did.
Did you see my screen up to now?
Not yet.
Sorry for that. I'm trying to join you as well from far away from Colombo to unavoidable similar situation that we have some digital nomads already in town, so it's very important to show them around. So that's the reason that I'm trying again with a good internet connection.
So, Dilip and Saurabh, I'll put you on hold for some time and I'll switch to people here. And now I'll start with Bia. You have been traveling to many destinations as a nomad. So what is your expectation, if at all you need to be in Sri Lanka? And what kind of things that you expect, which you feel comfortable with?
Is this on? Oh, there we go. I'm usually loud enough that I don't need a microphone. So, hi everybody. I think that a lot of those things on that list were really accurate, particularly Wi-Fi stood out. Like that's obviously the number one thing that digital nomads are looking for. We need connectivity wherever we go. Our jobs depend on it, so we can't be places where the internet isn't good or with rolling blackouts where the connectivity is cutting out completely. So I think that's probably the number one factor. I think there's a couple other things that have stood out that Sri Lanka offers, that like the beauty of it, the culture, the people here, the safety, like there's so much that Sri Lanka is currently offering. I think there's a couple other things that there's areas for improvement in this country as well, but I probably just simply put, internet's the number one thing. There's a lot of hotels here, so accommodation is great. I do think a lot of travelers, though, from a digital nomad perspective, are looking to stay more like an Airbnb. So they want to stay like in people's homes. They really want to be feeling like they're living in the country. It's not the same as tourism, right? You're going somewhere for 3 months, 6 months, 12 months at a time, and you want a kitchen. You want to feel like you're part of the community. And so I do think sometimes staying in a hotel alienates you a bit from that experience. And that feels like an area that you'll probably continue to see that develop a lot here. Some of the things that are amazing are obviously being able to drive a tuk-tuk around. So I think transport is a plus in this country. It's quite easy to get around, and the roads are in great condition. And then I think some of the other things that stood out is leisure activities. Like there's quite a bit to do here, but that's beautiful, like the surfing. There's quite a bit of activities. I think that will continue to grow. There could be more coffee shops, more breweries, like fun activities like that. That I think when you're looking at digital nomads that are used to some Western ways, they probably want more leisure activities in that space. And then maybe another area is just that the LGBTQ plus, like the kind of equality. I think that comes down to like the environment, also animal welfare. So I think hopefully those will be places you'll continue to see Sri Lanka develop. And things like the animal welfare bill getting passed. I think it stands out as really important to nomadic travelers that they feel like they're participating in a culture and a community where everyone is treated as equals, animal welfare matters, sustainable tourism matters, environmental factors matter a lot to digital nomads.
Thanks, B. I would say being associated with many nomads in the country, and you are running a service, what is your experience? What is the expectation, and how are we catering to that?
Yeah, thanks. I, of course, speak from a more tourism business owner perspective, small business, I would say. I do know a lot of digital nomads that do come to Sri Lanka. They also use our services, traveling around, and yeah, connectivity is very important for them, but also for our business in general. But when I look from me, of course, as a foreigner starting up a business here, and also what a lot of business owners who have digital nomad communities in Bali or other countries, and they are looking to open up businesses here, is ease of doing business is something that is a bit tough in Sri Lanka, definitely from a foreign. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, ease of doing business, I think, is something that can definitely be improved. because it's going to bring new revenue streams to Sri Lanka if it was easier for other players to enter the market here.
Yeah, but do you think these nomads will have a, what do I say, like, a preference of seeing the foreign faces in the country, doing businesses, offering services back to them? That's the same thing that they see in their countries as well.
Yeah, true. I think it goes both ways. There is very little offering in terms of for digital nomads currently coming from the country itself. In Colombo, I would say there are a lot of co-working spaces aimed at the IT market in Colombo itself. But when you look in places in the south or the east, those facilities are not really there yet. But there are people who are interested in opening it up. And I think also when it comes to digital nomads in general, look, they're coming here for 6 months, 1 year, like Bea explained. She prefers to stay in Airbnbs, in people's homes, experiencing the culture. And that doesn't only go one way. I think it also goes two ways, because you're bringing this talent into the country. They may not work here. Obviously, they don't work here. But they are sharing their experience. They're sharing their thoughts. They're having conversations with the local community. And that creates a lot of engagement. And, people can learn from this.
Thanks, Vitsi. Now, this basically triggers another question to Saurabh. Saurabh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Saurabh, you have created a digital nomad village in India. Am I correct? So will you please...
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, can you tell us what is the intention behind that and what is it all about?
Sure. So first of all, I would like to share that one of the big pain point of being a digital nomad is being totally disconnected with your community, right? So a lot of digital nomads, they really look forward to connect with other digital nomads, right? And I felt like it will be great to bring this digital nomad at one location, right? So we already saw there has been online communities, but there has been a huge demand for the offline communities or offline spaces where nomads could meet each other. In the last 3 years, we saw nomad villages coming up in places like Madeira Island in Portugal. Then it came up in Croatia, and we felt like it makes sense to do it in this part of the world as well. So in Bangalore, I host a co-living space, which at a time can host around 70-75 digital nomads. And we run a retreat where people can collaborate, co-live, be part of events and experience. So there is a very strong sense of community. And I see that there is a huge opportunity for other cities and countries to also set up nomad villages so that they can attract remote workers and digital nomads to these destinations.
Yeah, Saurabh, like when you say a nomad village, I wouldn't travel to a destination to meet similar people there. Like my expectation of coming on to a country will be to explore the country. So this particular village, are you talking in digital form or is it going to be on a physical form?
No, of course, it's a physical form. And see, what happens is that a lot of digital nomads, they prefer to stay at a place for a longer duration. They don't just come to a place to explore, but they also want to stay there for a little longer term so that they can actually, live like a local over there. So we have seen that maybe in the starting phase, many digital nomads, they want to visit a new place every second, third day, but it's not something that you can do for a really long time. You'll ultimately get tired. So the seasoned digital nomads are those who are spending close to 5-6 months at a destination, right? And these digital nomads, they'll prefer to stay with their community. They'll prefer to stay with people who are also working remotely, right? Or they have things in common with whom they can collaborate. So these people, they prefer to have a stay in, let's say, a co-living space or a village where they can find similar nomads with complementary skill sets with whom they can, with whom they have a sense of community and, they can have more things in common.
Okay. Dilip, do we have any kind of this initiative in Sri Lanka? Do we have thought of these angles in Sri Lanka?
Well, I mean, it's not similar to the extent with what Saura mentioned, but you have certain places like if you look at it from Unawatuna to Midigama, like the works, the liquid space. Then we also have something called Karatamaka, and then the doctor's house, the tracks. Such places that we have in Sri Lanka have actually created this environment where they actually come together and then they see each other and they work with each other. But what we don't have is that there are three important factors: is the visa process, which is now, I think there was a circular that was issued today this morning by the immigration department that the 1 month visa is now can be obtained for 6 months for the same price, $45, and which is a good thing, and that's going to be initially available till next year June. So one person can, without any issue, without going to 2-3 times to immigration Colombo, can extend that, and that's a good news. And I think it's the right step in the right direction. The second thing is there is some limitations that one can face in terms of receiving money, etc. But most of the banks they have what is called inward investment account, IIA account, where they can open the account and they can receive, and then again they can create another local account, and where they've been issued a debit card into that, or if they can block a certain amount of money, they even can get a credit card. So that will actually give them a certain flexibility for them to make sure that they have receiving money and they can make use of it. Of course, the third thing, what we mentioned, is the internet connectivity. There are some improvements to be done, but there are some solutions based on investment that what can do by individuals who are running these locations. And also in the meantime, it's important that the certain stability is basically also created. They're looking for that in terms of stability economically and politically, and then other stability that they're required so that they can take a decision because it's their career, etc. Also communicated in a long-term basis. So Sri Lanka has huge potential, and I believe we could actually put all these ideas together and at least put a white paper into Sri Lanka tourism so that they can actually start looking at this, the implementation of this.
But Dilip, looking at the visa fee, majority of the nomads looking at the main criteria as economy and the economic advantage to explore. The fee, isn't it something which is too much for everybody to come in rather than a specific segment?
Not really, because it's $45, and now it's given for almost 6 months. So therefore, I don't think there will be a problem as such that paying this amount. And if I'm just actually read you the part of the circular that was issued, and it says really according to the Cabinet of Ministers have granted approval to issue an ETA up to 180 days by charging $35 in one stretch with the intention of promoting tourism industry affected due to COVID-19. This visa scheme will implementation from 11th November or October until valid till 25th of June till initially. So the facility is available online, mode of www.eta.gov.lk, as well as approaching Sri Lanka and overseas missions. So therefore, I don't think $45 compared to rest of the destinations who are charging $1,500, $2,000, $3,000. I think it's a great deal. It's a great deal for the digital nomads to come here.
So this is being marketed throughout the world at this point in time, or is there any steps taken towards that?
The circular was received actually this morning. I just got it about 1 o'clock in this afternoon today, so maybe in time for the conference. But I think we need to go and market this and inform the world into this and have a structured approach. And it's, again, I would say, a good, it's an entrepreneur model, and if there's a lot of good entrepreneur out there, I might be able to actually make use of this now.
So, Vitsi, what is your experience listening to all this? What is your practical thought on this? Because you have been facing this throughout, right?
Yeah. So yeah, when we talk about the visa thing, recently they introduced the 180-day visa. This could have been done a long time ago. Sri Lanka tourism has had a big hit, so they are taking measures to, try to get more tourists into the country. One of them is creating this 180-day visa, which, by the way, I think is only till June next year. They may extend. I don't know. But prior to this, people had to extend their visa. Now, in the COVID times, they introduced the e-visa service, which it didn't work really well, and I think maybe that's good to mention this on Internet Day. The ease of extending your visa online was not really something that was working well. Now, of course, with this 180-day visa, that's been solved. But this is, I think, till June next year, what I believe is that this visa is valid for. So it'll be good to see, future developments in this, definitely.
Yeah, there is a question from audience. What is the minimum speed that you're expecting? Bia?
To be honest, I actually don't know off the top of my head upload and download rates, but it is something like, I usually email and ask for like proof of it, like a photo of it, because I've definitely experienced getting places and it's not what was communicated. So I can't give you a number off the top of my head. I can get back to you on that. But that is critical. Like you're uploading and downloading sometimes video files, often audio files, you're on Zoom chats, and you can't have like subpar internet in that sense. So I think it needs to be substantial enough to be able to do all that.
Definitely, yes. And I will also prefer to comment on this, because when you go out, I don't want to purchase multiple SIMs. I would like to have one SIM which can provide alternative services as per region that I travel, so that it gives me a flexibility of doing what I want rather than concentrating on changing SIMs or changing service providers.
Yeah, maybe if I can also add to that, that's actually a very good point. There's a lot of towers in Sri Lanka. One is Dialog, the other is Mobitel, and there's some differences in between. But if you're not close to a tower where your SIM is from, you don't have good internet. For instance, I have 3 SIM cards, because when I am traveling myself within the country, I'll just switch to whichever one is fastest. But it's pretty inconvenient to do this. So that is definitely a good point you were addressing.
In the interest of time, we may have to wind up, but before that, Bia, you have been involved in marketing for big brands. What would be your take on Sri Lanka, if at all we need to position Sri Lanka for nomads?
Yeah, I think there's two. One point is to the visa comment, actually, from a marketing standpoint. I do think it's problematic. Like the average digital nomad is going somewhere 3 to 9 months. So even a 6-month visa, frankly, is limiting, particularly for any digital nomads with families, which a surprising number have. I think it's something like 30 or 40% of digital nomads have kids in school. And so that's, I think, like at least 12-month visa. There's about 20-something countries in the world that offer it, and those are some of the places that digital nomads go the most. And it is inconvenient. It's not clear how to extend it online. And it also, from a marketing standpoint, I think marketing the visa, like Barbados has the Barbados welcome stamp. So they created a visa that was it was clearly marketed, it was clearly labeled, it was 12 months, and within 10 months of launching it, the government had gotten $6 million in revenue just from that visa alone, because digital nomads are looking for somewhere that it's simple, it's a single visa, it's 12 months. Like you can't deal with the complications of having to extend it and not having that information clear. So that's sort of related, a little bit tangential, but related to marketing. And then I think it's funny because I work in marketing, so I'm biased, but it's effective. There's a reason. It's a multi-$100 million industry worldwide. But I think that what I understood of Sri Lanka prior to coming was primarily through marketing. And I will say, after having come here, I don't necessarily think it's reflective of the country that I've personally experienced. Like, this is one of the most, like, some of the kindest people I've ever met. It's a very playful culture. It's extremely safe. There's a lot of personality and there's a lot of uniqueness here that I don't necessarily think comes through. I almost feel like there's it markets a bit almost like older. It feels like more like a luxury destination, and it's not that it's not luxurious, but it's much more fun than that. And I don't think that digital nomads, an average age of 35, are looking for high-end luxury. What they're looking for is like a culture they can experience and partake in. And my experience with Sri Lanka is absolutely that. So I think even like an influencer strategy, trying to get people that are more relevant to the audience, to the digital nomadic audience, is really important. I think that the authenticity of the country will come through, and I think in and of itself that will probably attract a greater digital nomad audience here.
Thanks. We have only almost 5 minutes. there is no much of a questions from the audience. So what we will do, we will have a closing thoughts. What would you like to tell the authorities and the businesses in Sri Lanka in taking up this? Let's start off with Saurabh.
All right, so I see that it's a time for Sri Lanka to position itself as a digital nomad destination. And I see that the tourism board also has a big role to play for that. For example, we are seeing many countries, they are coming up with ad campaigns. Even the states in India, for example, Kerala Tourism Board came up with ads which is all about how Kerala is the place for remote work, right? So I see that a similar ad campaigns by Sri Lankan Tourism Board will let Nomad know that Sri Lanka is ready, and this is the reason why Sri Lanka is the right destination for digital nomads. I see huge potential in setting up digital nomad villages as well. What we see is that globally, online communities are looking to converge into physical spaces. Futurists like Balaji Srinivasan has been talking about it through his book like Network States, and I see that Sri Lanka can host such digital nomad villages. So maybe government can do something to facilitate such endeavors. And I think these two things will definitely help Sri Lanka attract many digital nomads.
Thanks, Saurabh. Vyats, what about you? What's your closing thoughts?
Yeah, I think Sri Lanka is going in the right direction in a lot of aspects. But I guess make it a bit easier to do business here. The bureaucracy, I think, is the biggest issue currently in multiple aspects, from visas to business owners, and making it all possible to be a digital nomad or open up facilities which are good for and attract digital nomads, but also generally the tourism industry.
B, what are your thoughts?
Succinct closing thoughts. Okay. Obviously, Wi-Fi is number one. The visa probably number two. I think building digital nomad communities kind of falls in that space. I think the continuing development of things like Airbnbs and letting people come here and stay closer to the people that live here is really important. I think the country taking measures to protect the culture that you have in place. Often there can be an influx of tourism that can impact that and change that, so you don't want that. And then the progress of just environmental protection. It is super important to, like, when people come as nomads to countries, they want to see that the country's beautiful, that it's protected, that its animals are treated well, that its people have equality. So I think the progress in those places are really important. And then I think a campaign that just shows the rest of the world what this country has to offer is also extremely important.
Thanks, B. Dilip, what do you have to say us?
Yeah, I think this is the time that everyone talks about system change in Sri Lanka, right? So we need to really make sure that it happens. I think what I suggest is that, this panel and maybe somebody can take a leadership and then maybe create a white paper on it. Because telling the government to do this is difficult for them to execute, to understand the concept, don't know where to start it and how to do it, etc. So simple white paper, where say the importance of it and what are the key steps that should be taken and how to do it. And I don't see if you're looking at a system change, these policy decisions are very difficult. We recently, about 6 months back, did a wildlife streaming from a remote place, which has required a huge amount of MBBS in terms of the internet requirement, and if that can be done, I'm sure the other guys also can find a solution for it. So and give them, then ensure that these things actually enter the policy discussions, and then ensure that happens, and then that's being pushed by respective associations, or at least the people who have a business interest, and get the policy framework right. And then of course the investors and the entrepreneurs will, I'm sure, will go and invest in the villages, etc. So try and getting a white paper to the government might be a good idea.
Thank you, Dilip. So thanks a lot for all the panelists who contributed with their thoughts. And we don't have any more questions. So thank you very much for listening.